All right, have and have not fans, this is the final episode review of not only spring, but apparently summer as well, because unfortunately, the haves and the have-nots will not be returning to the OWN network until sometime this fall. Unfortunately, again, I'm going to use the word unfortunately, I am unaware of the exact return date, but I'm going to do another follow-up video either today or tomorrow. But just so you know, because I know people will ask the question, no, I do not know the exact month, the date, when the haves and the have-nots is coming back. It's kind of thrown me for a loop, but I would assume that by the time Season 7 Part 2, or the back half of Season 7 returns, they would have filmed Season 9 of the haves and the have-nots. So before going any further, first of all, I just want to give a special shout out to Chandler. We had an Instagram live stream during the episode last night, first time doing it. I know it may have been disappointing to some people because we didn't show the episode, but you could hear the episode and we were talking throughout. So basically, I was watching the episode. I was on an Instagram live with Chandler along with other people watching, taking notes and tweeting. I didn't do a YouTube live stream just out of the danger of getting a copyright strike. So that's why I didn't have the episode, playing on YouTube. Obviously, the audience would have been a lot bigger, but just so you know, I can't take risk like that because, again, too many copyright strikes and my channel gets terminated, and obviously I can't afford that. But let me just start this episode review up front. I'm going to be completely honest. This was not the worst episode of Season 7. I actually went to the Facebook group this morning to approve, check the submitted posts by members. And pretty much every post was saying the same thing. This was a boring episode. This was a slow episode. This was not mid-season or any kind of finale level of quality. And I have to agree now. My score of the episode is a 6 out of 10. And honestly, the episode really didn't even start getting good until Mitch, was at Hannah's place and, Benny and Candice rolled up. But wow. Okay, so let's break this down. This is remember, this is the last episode review for the haves and the have-nots until basically towards the end of the year. And let's try to make the most of it. So before I get started, let's set a goal for this episode. Since I gave it a 6 out of 10, let's see if we can get 600 likes. I'm going to highball it because this episode was definitely a low ball to say the least. And if you're new to the channel, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification icon so you don't miss out whenever I post new content. And just because the haves and the have-nots is gone for a while, you all know good and well there are plenty of other shows I'm going to be reviewing during the hiatus. And on top of that, links to all my various forms of social media, they're going to be in the description below. But Bananas Foster, let's answer a question real quick because some people have been asking me what a Banana Foster is. I actually have it pulled up on my phone right now. Bananas Foster is a dessert made from bananas and vanilla ice cream with a sauce made from butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, dark rum, and banana liqueur. The butter, sugar, and bananas are cooked, and then alcohol is added and ignited. The bananas and sauce are then served over the ice cream. Number one, I've never had one of these. Number two, I would like to assume that, when Wyatt said he was 7 years old and enjoyed having this, that the alcohol was not added, because if it was, that actually explains quite a lot, and I will get to that in its own separate video. Yes, I will be doing a freaking video specifically on Bananas Foster. Well, okay, so the episode, yeah, it was great doing the live stream because me and Chandler could feed off each other in regards to our opinions right off the cuff. This wasn't we're going to watch the episode then link up and talk about it. No. It started off boring. For the first 7 minutes to be nothing but, why don't, please put pressure on it. Remember when I was 7? The Bananas Fosters, those made me happy. And you or Dad, would smile every time I would come back from boarding school. And we would have such a good time. And those Banana Fosters would be the thing that would just bring me joy. But then it got to the point where you would just be mad at me. You wouldn't be smiling. And it's like when there was something Dad did to you or Dad made you do, it's like you would take that anger out on me. And then that one time when those priests touched me at the camp that day, I got home and I just wanted a Bananas Foster. But then you were just mad at me and I didn't get one. And yeah, so like I said, I'll do an entire video breaking it down because the only good part that happened during that scene was getting more insight into Wyatt's childhood and more information about the priest and whatnot. Because if you remember way back after Amanda had died, Wyatt revealed that the day the priest first touched him, that was the same day he had called Jim saying that he wanted to come back from the Bible camp early, but Jim said no because he had to work. But in actuality, he was with Celine. So if Jim would have went to the camp to pick up Wyatt, then this entire situation could have been avoided. Now, one could argue that Wyatt wanted to come home because those priests were, being inappropriate with him, but not to the point of going so far as to traumatize him. He just recognized that something was going on that was wrong and he wanted to come home immediately, but because of Jim's affairs, that didn't happen. So one could make the assumption that, Catherine did go to pick up Wyatt, but she was mad at Jim because she most likely knew about the whole Celine thing at the time. So because of Jim's, adulterous ways, I guess that's the right term, his son was taken advantage of, which pissed off Catherine. Not the fact that he was touched, because remember, Wyatt, to my knowledge, didn't tell Catherine, but then again, Catherine said those priests disappeared, so she somehow found out about it. All I'm saying is this: those events actually led up to, Wyatt's addiction and whatnot. But like I said, Bananas Foster, that'll be its own video in itself. But I just feel like this first scene was dragged out far too long. I wish that we would have gotten some moments like, Wyatt's talking and everything. I wish he would have brought up Amanda in some capacity, because, guys, I still don't believe he was the one that killed her. I know you can call me crazy. Look, I get it, but I don't think he was the one that did it. And then he eventually passes out. So, yeah, for that to be the only potential death in the entire episode in the deadliest season, at the cusp of a finale where we're going to have about a 6-month hiatus, this was not a good start to the episode. And then, again, heaven forbid I'm ever behind bars, but, for nobody else to really be reacting, everybody just kind of standing around, I don't know how that would go. But then we go to Jim then we go to scenes where they weren't bad because they kind of move fast. So we get to Jim and Akil. Akil comes back, and, Jim isn't that hard on him this time because, the Malones. So I'm like, thank God, because he's only one guy. What is he supposed to do against the Malones? And he gives them the assignment to kill Veronica. And this fool here, it has to be done in a big way. Okay, but Jim doesn't even care about casualties. Go to hell, Jim Cryer. So then he calls Kyle, and he pretty much says he'll consider helping Jim in this situation because now you have a murder charge and everything. Because Jim is pretty much saying, hey, I can be a valuable resource to you, because he understands that he's asking a lot of Kyle despite the information he gave Candice and really not being enough to solidify their alliance. But I was actually a little disappointed, because I'm not just saying this because I kept predicting it over the past week, but I honestly thought that Jim's knowledge about Candice's connections with the Malones would have been essential in regards of, oh, whoa, you're saying she's involved with the Malones? Oh, we can run with this. All right, Jim Cryer, I'll see what I can do for you. I think that would have been I know in some situations it's best not to put all your cards on the table, but that's something that I think that Jim really could have, pulled out of his back pocket in order to get Kyle completely on his side. And then Scott pretty much reassures him to, watch out for Cryer, but at the same time, this is something we could definitely work with. And remember, he told Kyle about the fact that, there's somebody working behind the scenes in order to make Candice look good to the public. Think about that. And remember, he knows that Landon is the one who's doing it because Kyle tried to grill him about that. But Scott is in trouble because, remember, Landon caught him at the bar with his cousin basically having an affair on his wife, and he took photos, and basically he would reveal those to Scott's wife or the press. So that's why Scott, mums the word with him. And let's see. Then we go over to Mitch. Okay, this is when the episode gets good. Benny pulls up in a freaking tow truck. And again, I hate the fact that the money was gotten the way it was, but it's good to see the man trying to get back to work. Ill-gotten gains. But to be honest, I'm not trying to go back to like a couple years ago, but if he would have took the money he borrowed from Uncle Vinny, Vinny Malone, and bought that damn tow truck like he said from the beginning, he could have been out there working, making money, making his payments and the interest, and there wouldn't have been no issues. But no, he bought 2 trucks, and of course, one of those, as the episode went on, okay, so basically they're his trucks, but of course he's giving one to Mitch so they can get Benny's towing back off the ground, which is great. And that truck is a lot bigger than the one he originally had, that's for sure. And then next thing you know, Candice pulls up in a truck, and I'm not gonna lie, she looks so adorable. I don't know, maybe it's because she's so small compared to the big truck, but she looks so adorable, like climbing out of the truck and smiling and everything. Once again, I don't like the scenario and how they achieve these things, but to actually see these characters happy is actually a good moment, just because everybody's usually so stern, tense, serious, mad, devious, but to actually have a friendly moment between these characters was great. And then she gives the truck to Mitch, and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. And then Benny's like, what you gonna give him a truck for? He ain't doing nothing. I'm like, if you don't sit your ass down, Benny. First of all, Benny, you don't know that Mitch, pretty much talked Jim down from coming after them, but Mitch has done far more. I'm gonna throw this out there. Mitch, you know what? Candice gave you $1 million. You should have gave Mitch at least, $100K or more because of everything he's done for you, putting his own relationship with his family on the line for you, tricking Jim Cryer to paying your debt with his family. If anything, okay, I like the fact that, okay, hey man, I got these 2 trucks, we're going to get Benny's towing back in business. You could have gave your boy some money, that's all I'm saying. But hey, well, what do I know? He done a lot more for you. But in any case, they go inside the house, and oh boy. Well, actually, before going in the house, Benny's like, he's keeping the money. And then Hannah's, waiting in the dark like a parent waiting for their child to get back late when they said they'll be home 3 hours ago. So basically, this is the part where it wasn't a bad part. This was actually a good part. But let me just say, overall, there's one scene I didn't like, but overall, the acting in the episode was good. It's just that I just hate it. When Candice called her mother Hannah, that was sad, just because of the fact that we've come so far, and yet now it's all falling apart. And this is when things get kind of confusing, because Benny's just, feeling himself, or what is it, like, what's the term that our parents used to say, like, getting too big for his britches. He's telling Hannah what he's going to do, like, okay, you want to kick us out? That's fine. I want to give me a house. It's going to have a couple rooms in there, and once you calm down, you can come in when you want. I ain't trying to live in no gangsta house. Did you do something gangsta, princess? And then, Mitch actually brings up the fact that, he has his family having Jim on lockdown, and Benny rightfully being concerned, because it's like, and I understand Hannah being concerned. It's like, whoa. So we're a family of gangsters now, because one minute your family's trying to kill my son, rightfully so, because he did take out money and didn't want to pay it back. And then now you're telling me the family is watching over it. So yeah, it makes sense that you would be concerned, because your life is basically dependent on how the mob feels about you. So, one minute you can be in their good graces, but step out of line or let somebody puts a hit on you, then you're dead. So, yeah, that was actually a red flag. And then the logic of Hannah saying that, okay, I want you both out of here. Okay, that makes sense. But then it's like, if you come back, the police will be waiting here because you took that money. And I'm like, how the hell does that make any sense? Let's imagine George let's say Candice or Benny show up at the house again, and George and a couple of cops are waiting for him. So, Mrs. Young, these are your children? Yes, George. And they're the ones who took the $8 million from Jim Cryer, which explains your son's name on the notepad that said there are over 8 million reasons to get this guy. Yes, that's right. Yet you told me at Catherine Cryer's house the night of the shooting that you had no idea why your son's name was on a notepad in Jim's study. That's correct. And you were aware that they took these millions of dollars. Yes, I did. And your children bought an assortment of trucks and apparently houses. That's correct. And I kicked them out too. And I said, if they ever came back, they would be placed under arrest. But Mrs. Young, are you not the executor and have power of attorney over the acquired estate? Yes, I do. But you didn't put any attempt to have your children under arrest or reacquire the funds that rightfully belonged to the criers, that rightfully belonged to the criers before you took ownership of their property. That's true. Then you are an accessory and you're under arrest as well. Look, I don't know exactly how that conversation would go, but that makes no flipping sense. That's almost like, let's say me and my sister, 'cause I have an older sister by 2 years. Let's say the two of us, I don't know, robbed a bank for like $50,000 and we split it 25,000 each. Our mom finds out about it, and instead of calling the cops on us, she lets us go. And then if we ever came back to her house, she would call the cops. That makes no sense whatsoever. Again, it wasn't a poorly acted scene. It was just the execution of the scene that did not make any sense to me whatsoever. All right, so David gets home, is talking with Jeffrey on the couch. Okay, really not much to evaluate here except for the fact that David's a good dad. He accepts his son for what, his lifestyle. It's just going to take some getting used to. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's one thing to accept your child for who they are, but another to actually see it. And, I just love the fact where it's like, because Jeffrey's like, can Madison come over after dinner? And he's like, yes, but next time, lock your door. And it's like, well, yeah, you should knock. And I'm thinking to myself, in a black household, there was no such things as locking your door, let alone having locks on the door and parents knocking. It's just like, let's talk a little in my apartment. Okay, me and my roommate both it's a 2-room apartment. Like my first apartment, stayed there for a year. My first roommate, both had our own rooms. Then in this one, I'm thinking we're renewing the lease for year 6. So it's 2 years. 2-room apartment. I think it's something that has stuck with me since I was a kid because for whatever reason, there were never locks on our doors at home. The only locks were on the front door and the back door. The bathrooms didn't lock and our room doors didn't lock. So what I hated was when my parents would like knock and open the door at the same time, and that just irked me to death. So I think subconsciously as I got older, I just developed a tendency to lock my door. For example, in my bedroom, even when I'm the only one here, I will have my door locked. When I'm asleep, I'll have my door locked. It's just something that's, I don't know, because I've always been afraid of somebody just jumping out and when I least expect it. So my personal bedroom door in my apartment is always locked. Hell, even if I end up getting my own place and I'm the only one in the house or apartment, I will still do that. That's just how I am. So yeah, it was a funny scene. What did David say? I got 50 condoms. They were on sale. And I'm like, oh God. So yeah, kudos for David for, just trying to understand his child. And, they go into a little bit of detail about how he never seen anything like that in college. And it's like, it was a different time back then. For any people who are gay, I guess you could say were in the closet. Just the way he said it, I was waiting for him to go like, R. Kelly, they were trapped in the closet. But he brought up remember that Veronica says that William is Jeffrey's real father. So I'm wondering, did David know William in college and he was possibly in the closet back then, but he didn't know it? That's just something to consider. But let's see here. Yeah, so he mentions that security will be following Jeffrey around. I don't know if Leo, the guy who's standing outside of the house, I don't know if he's the one who's going to be following Jeffrey or if it's someone else, because it wouldn't make sense for, Leo to leave and follow Jeffrey to make sure he's safe, but then David is left home alone. So, it's all about the precaution of Veronica sending those thugs back. But we go over to Scott and Kyle, and apparently it's Conley Westlake, not Wesley. Okay, so Scott needs to review this stuff because of the investigation that Conley's going to have on the department, and it's just basically to make sure everything's done by the books, even the shady shit they did, just to make sure there's no kind of heat coming on them as they're exiting for the new administration to come through. And then this is when the episode really cranks up. So apparently Kyle wants to have Candice killed on federal property and make it look like she took her own life because of the distraught of losing Charles. Holy crap. And this goes back to what I said even when Candice was trying to turn over a new leaf. It's all well and good that you did that, but keep in mind that, remember, Candice, just because you turned over a new leaf, that doesn't eliminate all of your past transgressions, all the people you pissed off, all the enemies you made. So remember way back during the funeral planning for what I think it was called the Veronica Show. That was the episode where Candice shows up at the funeral home as they're prepping for Quincy Jr.'s funeral, and she wished death on her own mother. And it's like, I hope you end up dead and then you're on an unmarked grave so I can spit on it. So then Hannah flipped it around. It's like, you wish that on me? You literally just put that on yourself. All the people you've conned, all the people you've hurt in the past, you're going to end up killed by one of them someday, and all of them will be standing over your grave. Look at what's happening now. So do I think Candice is going to die? No, I think Charles or somebody might actually die by accident, because remember, due to it being a parent take on her life, it could be something as simple as, overdose, somebody spiking the food or drink, something like that might happen. So we'll just have to wait and see. But that was the first part of the episode that had, oh shit, it's getting real now. So then we go over to Laura and Veronica. She's asking Laura to pick up her dry clean. She's doing a great job keeping the place clean, dust free. And, she's complimenting her, but basically she's allowing her to get the car. Oh, what, you thought you would take the bus? You're not taking my $5,000 suits on the bus. So then, Laura tries to bring up how her mommies say, like, no, I want to hear about your mama, your mammy, your nanny, nothing like that. So basically, Veronica is being nice but doesn't want to get personal. So then Rodell shows up, and Rodell, and that's the first time his name is mentioned outside of the end credits of the episode. So at least we know how to pronounce it now. And he mentions, kind of like Quita, they going to be coming for you. There's this foreign dude. So somehow news travels fast in the underworld. The thugs are aware that Akil is coming after Veronica. But Akil is working for Jim. But Quita said they are coming for you. And this is before Jim and David conspired to take Veronica's life. So Akil is the one sent by Jim to go after Veronica. But remember that the hood is supposed to be coming after her. But Rodell said, hey, let us know if you need any security, like hired muscle. And then that one guy from early this season that was at Veronica's house. Remember when that entire squad of thugs were in her house? And then the one guy she stopped and said was attractive. I just feel like when it comes down to it, we're in a situation where she's trying to get her freak on. But what did she say when Rodell left? Hey, Lauren, Lima, whatever your name is, bring in some air freshener. Smell like weed and malt liquor. So it's kind of weird. But at least, because the very people that Quita warned her about pissing off and that were conspiring against her, Rodell seems to be like the voice of the hood. At least the squad that Veronica has working for her, they're on good terms because she paid for, the two guys. Like one of the guys that died at David's house was his brother. Paid for the funerals, got the school tuition funds set up and everything. So she lived up to her end of the bargain. So that doesn't make sense. I need to go back and rewatch the scene, but it did not make sense to me. Guys, I'm almost finished. We're almost done. Let me skip the Madison and Jeffery scene for right now. All right, so then we go over to Laura and her husband. And that's the guy that played Tinka Sumter's former fiance in the movie Nobody's Fool. And apparently Laura and her husband, they mark people, like they get jobs as, she gets a job as a maid or whatever, and then her husband seduces the old broad that she's working for, and then they clean the place out. So they plan on doing the same thing to Veronica. That is not a smart idea. An interesting storyline, mind you, but not a smart idea. Remember, Arcade couldn't even take a few pieces of jewelry without being caught. So how the hell are you going to make it through that house? Like, you're the maid, but have you not come across any of the cameras and whatnot? I'm just saying. But, that's going to be an interesting storyline. But the thing I don't like is the fact that just happened too quickly. We all called out Laura for being set up by Veronica off the rip. But I would think that we would have maybe a few more interactions between Veronica and Laura, maybe where we kind of feel bad for Laura for being set up to die, and, her being sweet, but Veronica being kind, but keeping Laura's at a distance away like she did in this episode. So it's almost like, you don't give us time to really get to know these characters before you just say, oh yeah, these characters are evil because they're going to be plotting stuff. And it's like, really? So once again, I'll get to that in its own video. Then finally, and once again, remember, I'm going back to Madison and Jeffery. We go over to Candice and Benny packing. Benny, for whatever reason, seems to be looking up Derek's information online because he's upset that he made Hannah upset. And Candice is trying to steer him away from doing so, and then finds his criminal record online. The fact he has a lion tattoo, he puts 2 and 2 together, and that's the end of the episode. Then let's go back to Madison and Jeffery. While I thought that this would have been a nice scene between these two on a date, Madison just made the entire thing awkward. Like, I get that he wanted Jeffrey to lighten up. That's one thing, but making those, oh, yeah, like, that was completely inappropriate. And guys, I'm not just saying that because it was 2 guys on a date. That has nothing to do with it. You're in a public place and you're acting like a child. That was not funny or entertaining at all. So I thought that entire scene was incredibly awkward. Believe it or not, I was waiting for Justin to pop up. I really was waiting for Justin to pop up just to make that scene end because it was cringy. It really was. Like, flirting was one thing, but just coming on to Jeffrey just so relentless like that, I didn't like that scene. It just stinks because we have a very heartfelt moment between father and son earlier in the episode, and then you are just Jeffrey has a tendency to out of nowhere have sex with another person, but then when they try to initiate it again, he acts all shy like he's disinterested. But in this situation, I understand it because of just the embarrassment of his father walking in on him. That's pretty much it. It really wasn't about acting uninterested in Madison. Madison was just pushing, excuse me. Madison was just pushing too hard, and that made the scene very awkward to me. So overall, guys, that was the mid-season finale in a nutshell. Like I said, it wasn't a terrible episode. It wasn't awful. It wasn't great. It just wasn't that good. It wasn't the worst episode of this season. That award still goes to Mr. Jim, but this was not a strong enough episode to end on a finale, as well as not a strong enough episode to hold people over until the show comes back this fall. So we can assume that the show is not going to be coming back for at least 5 to 6 plus months. So maybe August or September. And I'm disappointed because of that. The cliffhanger with the whole Derek thing, that wasn't bad, but once again, it was not a strong enough cliffhanger to keep us waiting until the end of the year. So Bananas Foster was a bit disappointing for me, but the bananas were not ripe. Let me just put it that way. I felt like the bananas were a bit moldy. They had some spots on it. It wasn't good enough. Like, I don't even know what else to say. And like I said before, for Wyatt to be the only apparent death in this finale, we know Wyatt is not dead. Come on. I mean, if Tyler Perry has the balls to kill him off, that will be incredible, but there's no way that Wyatt is dead. Like I said, more videos will definitely be on the way, so be on the lookout for that. But as of right now, that's the haves and the have-nots in a nutshell until later this year. And people wonder why I was so hard on the show this season. It's because of stuff like this. You have us waiting 6 months. The show comes back. It's weak as I don't know what. And you go out on an episode that is lukewarm at best. This felt like a episode 5 or 6 of a season where it's kind of like a fillerish episode that happens, as the season is kicked off, but not strong enough to go on a break on. So, I mean, if the show was returning in May like it usually did, I wouldn't feel that terrible. I'm like, okay, this was a weak episode, but the show's coming back in a couple months. We'll be fine. No, this was not strong enough. So, once again, it wasn't the acting. Well, and again, not criticizing Madison's actor. I mean, in terms of the way Madison was acting at the restaurant was extremely inappropriate. But in terms of overall acting and whatnot, it was good in this episode. It wasn't bad. There weren't any moments where I felt like, yeah, that was cringy. No, or, just the way Madison was acting. But in terms of like overall the acting from the characters, the cast, no, it wasn't that. It was just a stale episode. It was a bit boring. There were only a few moments that had me go, oh my God, but that was it. So let me know your thoughts on Bananas Foster in the comment section below. I already did my social media plugs at the beginning. You know that good stuff. Subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. And I'm going to start working on some sister videos because at least I have that show to review. Some people were saying on YouTube as well as the Facebook group, the Oval is actually proven to be better than the Haves and the Have-Nots. And trust me, I have my problems with the Oval, but it is better than what we gotten so far for the Haves and the Have-Nots, in my opinion.